Hello everyone, with Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Saturday evening, September 9, 2023. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video, share it, subscribe and tap notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a brand new video. Feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section letting me know what the weather has been like in your area recently. Also feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. I respond to all comments and I really live for this stuff. Alright, so let's just take a look at the US National Hurricane Center's 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook. We can see that we still have Hurricane Lee, and to the east of Lee we have Tropical Storm Margot. Not to mention the fact that we have two new areas of disturbed weather that have a low chance of possible development across the main development region. We shall be, watching these systems as they progress westward or to the west-northwest as we jump into the new week. However, as it relates to Tropical Storm Margot, we can still see that it's right there across the northern portion of the main development region. Is moving to the northwest right now at 9 miles per hour and is packing maximum sustained winds of 45 miles per hour. As it relates to Hurricane Lee, I've been getting messages of people asking me if Hurricane Lee is going to be affecting us. No, Hurricane Lee is way over here. And this is Jamaica right here below Cuba and west of Hispaniola. We're definitely not going to be affected by Lee in any way. So we can see that it is still now a hurricane. It's expected to strengthen back to a major hurricane. As a matter of fact, it's already a major hurricane. Major hurricane is category 3 or higher, and the threshold for category 3 is 110 miles per hour. So we can see that it's already regenerated back to a major hurricane, and it's going to be, continuing to move towards the northwest or the west northwest, then make a turn to the north. Let us take a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening. We can see that we have not much across the Caribbean in general. No tropical waves, no troughs. We see some troughs right there off the coast of the southeastern United States, maybe affecting portions of Florida and the northern Bahamas. And we can see another tropical wave right here across the main development region's eastern portion right there, maybe affecting portions of the Cabo Verde Islands. And this is one of the tropical waves that has a low chance of possible development. Taking a look at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before the sun went down. Let's reload these images so that we have the latest. We can see that we don't have much cloud cover across majority of the Caribbean. Some thunderstorms here and there across portions of South Central America and Northern South America. And we can see Hurricane Lee right there spinning away off to the northeast of the Leeward Islands, and Tropical Storm Margot to the east of Lee, and to the southeast of Margot we have that tropical wave. Let us focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's. Not yesterday, actually. Yes, yesterday's post on our Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok pages. So no video was made yesterday, but we indeed posted the forecast for yesterday's or today's weather actually on our other social media platforms. If you're not already following those platforms, please ensure that you do very soon. So it was made mention that we would have had some amount of afternoon rainfall across sections of some northern parishes and sections of some western parishes in Jamaica. And what ended up happening, a post was made during the afternoon highlighting some amount of cloud cover, some isolated thunderstorms across sections of some northern and western parishes. So sections of St. James, maybe even spilling into sections of Trelawney, Hanover and Westmoreland. Even sections of northwestern St. Elizabeth might have gotten on some of that afternoon convection. And we can even see it better on the visible satellite images from earlier today. So definitely portions of Trelawney, St. James, northwestern St. Elizabeth, definitely sections of Hanover and Westmoreland got in on majority of the weather for today. And we can even see that better on the infrared satellite images showing those high cold cloud tops as indicated by the blues, greens, yellows, oranges and reds. Not to mention the sparkling white dots that indicate some amount of lightning flashes if not lightning strikes, while the rest of the highland very much dry. So central eastern parishes, not much happening at all. If we take a look at the latest Doppler radar images, we can see that rain right there up to the west of the island, as represented by the greens that represent moderate rainfall, and the yellows and the reds that represent some amount of strong rainfall within those greens. Taking a look at the temperatures right now, we can see we have 28 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay and 28 degrees Celsius in Kingston. As relates to the temperatures for tomorrow, we can see that both the Euro and the GFS has Jamaica embedded in some yellows and some oranges that represent 1 to 2 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures. I will know the average temperatures for the month of September in Jamaica is about 90 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about the equivalent of 32 degrees Celsius. So if we should be receiving an increase in the temperatures for tomorrow, 1 to 2 degrees Celsius above normal, it should be anywhere from 32 to 34 degrees Celsius at most. Taking a look at the dry air map, we can see some amount of dry air across sections of Jamaica today, as indicated by those yellows and oranges. But we can see that for tomorrow and majority of the rest of the coming week, we can see lots of moist air as indicated by the blue, as all of this that's across the island right now and to the far southern Caribbean will be pushing westward. Taking a look at the Saharan dust forecast for 2 p.m. on Sunday, we don't see much in the way of Saharan dust for Jamaica at all. Lots of blues that represent lots of moist air at this time. As it relates to the wave forecast, we can see that Sunday has the waves coming in from the east as usual, all courtesy of that easterly flow. So we have more of that darker shade of blue that represent 1.5 meter wave heights across sections of some eastern parishes, especially maybe some northern parishes as well. Not so much across the west coast. We see those lighter shades of blues that represent 0.5 meter wave heights or less. And we can see the wind flow. On the north coast, the wind seems to be coming in more from the east-northeast. On the south coast, especially the eastern portions, coming in more from the east-southeast. But we do see that air piling up across sections of some central and western parishes. That's where we have those darker shades of blues. That's where we have the least amount of winds. That's where we might have that afternoon convection, those cumulus clouds becoming cumulonimbus clouds, that daytime heating, that diurnal convection. And with the wind shear coming in from the south for tomorrow, if we have those thunderstorms on Sunday, it's definitely going to be blowing those high cold cloud tops off towards the north or the northeast, according to the GFS model, making more rainfall for sections of maybe some northern parishes, even more overcast skies as well. If we take a look at the precipitation forecast for tomorrow, we can see that we have some amount of blues that represent rainfall as early as 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 5 a.m. Jamaica time. So around 5 a.m. we see some blues right there across maybe sections of Portland, maybe sections of St. Thomas, maybe even spilling into sections of St. Mary. And we see that on both the Euro and the GFS models. I know that when we see both models are showing the same thing like this, when we see consensus like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. So definitely some early morning rainfall in store for the northeast. As it relates to the afternoon hours, however, we see that both the Euro and the GFS models are showing blues all across the island, especially across sections of some central and western parishes in Jamaica. We see some blues across Kingston and St. Andrew. We see some blues across sections of St. Mary, St. Anne, St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland. We do see some darker shades of blues, however, that indicate even more rainfall across sections of Hanover, St. James, and even the border of St. Elizabeth and Trelawney right there. Trelawney and St. Anne definitely going to be getting in on some of that rainfall as well. Not so much in the way of rainfall for sections of St. Thomas and Portland at all. However, when we take a look at the accumulated precipitation forecast, we do see some differences in the rainfall totals. However, we do see the greens that represent rainfall across sections of the island for tomorrow, especially in northern parishes according to the Euro. GFS is a bit more robust with the amount of rainfall that's expected, up to 0.6 of an inch of rainfall expected, especially across the northwest for tomorrow, which makes sense with all the rainfall that we just saw being predicted in the 1 hour totals. And we do see some consensus with where the rain is going to be expected, especially in northern and western parishes in Jamaica. And we're indeed grateful that we're going to be getting in on some amount of rainfall for tomorrow. We are in the month of September. We usually receive an increase in the amount of rainfall that we get across the island in general. So we'll take all the rainfall that we can get, and we are grateful for that. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let's focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So as stated, we don't have much happening right now across majority of the Caribbean. We might have more of a southerly or southwesterly flow of clouds and winds across the northeastern Caribbean, all courtesy of that, that pull, that suction coming into the Hurricane Lee right there. So maybe some amount of outer band, some isolated scattered showers right there. We don't see much happening across French Guiana, Suriname, or Guyana, but we do see some thunderstorms across sections of western Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, not to mention sections of El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Belize, and the Yucatan Peninsula. If we take a look at the Doppler radar images of the northeastern Caribbean, the Doppler radar images basically confirm what we just saw on the satellite images. If we take a look at the flow of the rainfall, especially across the northeastern portion of the Caribbean, right there, we see all of that rainfall moving from west to east, trying to suck its way into Hurricane Lee. So sections of Anguilla, Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts, St. John, Montserrat, Guadeloupe, Dominica could be getting in on more of that rainfall for tonight. However, if we take a look at Puerto Rico, the British and US Virgin Islands, just some amount of scattered showers passing through with more of a northeasterly kind of flow. Taking a look at the Barbados radar, we don't have much taking place at all across majority of the Windward Islands. Much of the area is in the clear. Taking a look at the wider view of Doppler radar images, we see the Doppler radar images confirming majority of what we stated earlier about the rainfall. Sections of Venezuela, Colombia, Guatemala, Belize, Mexico, Cuba, and even sections of southern Florida getting in on some amount of rainfall today. As relates to the temperature forecast, we still see much of the same like what we've been receiving for the past month. Some above normal temperatures all across the Caribbean, 1 to 3 degrees Celsius at most, and we see that on both the Euro and the GFS malls. We know that when we see consensus, the chance of it actually happening are much higher. As relates to the Saharan dust forecast, majority of the Caribbean is in the clear for 2 p.m. on Sunday. However, as relates to the wave forecast, we see that majority of the Caribbean in general are getting 1.5 meter wave heights or less, especially the Gulf of Mexico and Western Caribbean. Way less wave heights across those spots, 0.5 meter wave heights or less, while we have the highest wave heights indicated by the purples, reds, and pinks, all courtesy of Hurricane Lee right there, churning up the waters across the northeastern Dominican Republic, northern Puerto Rico, majority of the Leeward Islands right there. And we see that both the Euro and the GFS are in consensus with this wave forecast. And we all know that that's due to the fact that Hurricane Lee is churning up the waters with all of those strong winds. Yellows represent 25 knot winds or more. Then it gets even more intense the closer we get to the eye of that hurricane. As relates to the rest of the Caribbean, we get greens that represent 15 to 20 knots coming in mainly from the east across the central and the western Caribbean, and more from the south as most of that, mess starts swirling into Hurricane Lee and even bring those low level clouds and that rainfall to those spots. As relates to the rain forecast for tomorrow, we can see the waters where we have Hurricane Lee expected to get some tremendous rainfall up into the purples and the whites that represent even up to 10 inches of rainfall expected across the waters. But we do see some amount of rainfall expected for sections of the northeastern Caribbean. We're already getting in on that rainfall, and some more is expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Sunday as indicated by this rainfall forecast. But they won't be getting much, maybe up to at least 0.5 of an inch of rainfall expected at most. However, we can see some rainfall in store for sections of Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic. We can see some isolated showers as well in store for sections of southern Florida, the Bahamas, Cuba, and we see more in the way of rainfall across sections of western Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, Belize, Guatemala, and Mexico. And we see much of the same on the GFS model, and we know that when we see consensus like this for the rainfall, the chance of it actually happening are much higher. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.